5 o'clock, calling the Select Board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ted, would you lead us in this pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are 2 minutes to approve. First is the July 25th non-public meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the July 25th non-public meeting minutes.
It moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Neil seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All abstainers abstain. I abstain. What?
I as well.
He
Oh.
wasn't here either,
That's true.
Right. I as well. Abstain.
so we'll have to
Oh, right.
put it on the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep,
Well,
Both of them,
then
okay.
the other one as well.
sorry.
Okay. Meeting became shorter. So, all regular meetings will begin at 5 p.m. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. On Monday, August 22nd, also September 12th, and September 26th. And on Tuesday, August 23rd, there's going to be a Campus Community Council meeting at 5:15 p.m. in the Hayes Room at the Hartman Union Building at the PSU campus. All meetings will be held upstairs in the town hall and will be held, well, with the exception of the Hayes Room, but will be held by Zoom. Zoom information can be found on the town's website at plymouth-nh.org. And citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the town hall before 12 noon, the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Excuse me. And I have no comments. And the first order of business after that is Joe Fagnant with a DA White Excavating LLC culverts for Bartlett Road. Is Joe on?
He has not gotten on, I've tried to reach him.
we happen to know if we had other bids?
This is actually part of,
The bid, the overall bid.
that
for-
originally
Bid.
came in that you accepted,
Okay.
so you don't even need to vote on this. It was a mistake when the purchase order was put together. That's the second purchase order. You can vote to table it, or
Yeah, why don't you have a motion to table it?
All right, I'll make a motion to table it.
Okay, a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the table, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. All right, well,
I did hear from Jim, he is on his way home from Vermont. So I'm gonna see if I can get him to pull over and call in.
okay,
So
sure.
I'm waiting for him to call me back.
All right, well,
We'll move forward then.
yep. Next new business is Grafton County Broadband, high-level design discussion. And we have here, hi. Yeah, once you approach a mic, you just sit at the dais or a chair right here, but
Stay away from Bill, he's sick.
it's about 6
I
feet.
mean, this is much longer than 6 weeks. I think we're good.
Perfect.
My name is Emily Bottorff, and I'm here representing actually EX Squared on behalf of Grafton County. We are one of their partners when it comes to the design for the broadband. I believe that you guys should have received the high-level designs for that piece. And I've got my engineer that can actually, if you guys had some questions, we can walk through a little bit more that shows you what the middle mile does, and then also down to the high-level designs on the actual, into the towns and what that means to you guys. Then at the basically at the last piece is us being kind of giving you the contacts for the actual funds. So there's grants. So basically these high-level designs are giving you what you need to go for the actual grants. It's basically these are going to be final drawings. Are going to be basically construction ready, shovel ready, and things of that nature. So I can have him pull it up and kind of walk through it if you'd like that. Would that be good for you guys?
It would be for me, yeah.
Okay, all right. So I think, so Kyle is on, and I believe he's gonna be,
Lead sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Emily, can you hear me now?
Yep.
yes, yep, we sure can.
All right, great. So I'm trying to share, and it says I've been disabled, or host disabled participant screen sharing, so I think it has to get enabled.
Yeah, didn't we have a lot
And
of
if
that
we
in?
can't do that, that's fine too.
No, we should be able to do that. Okay. You're all set?
You should be co-host now.
All right, let's make this baby work. Okay. I'm still getting the same notice that participant screen sharing is disabled. It's blaming on bad broadband. Might be user error, but let's see, share my screen. Share screen. Oh, there we go. I think we're making progress here. I know. Share. Okay.
Sorry.
So, what we're, I guess I'm sorry, I'm struggling to show you the screen view, but in the sake of time, what I'll do is just explain a little bit about the middle mile. And so the middle mile is the initiative of the Grafton County Broadband Committee that think of that middle mile network as really an interstate highway that connects all 39 towns throughout Grafton County. And so it's the interstate highway, but they're also building, the off-ramp or the on-ramp down to the towns themselves and head-end location at the different town, the municipal location. And what that does is it provides, first come, first serve access. It gives every town the ability to have the same access to a fiber optic infrastructure as anyone else would have. And it's really a platform to build off of. And that platform will allow the town themselves to work with an ISP or a design builder or both to put something in place from the perspective of a fiber to the wherever, so that you can have high speed broadband access. And that middle mile, while it is by itself isn't anything that can do a whole lot other than connect the communities, which is important. But what it does is it's just the great enabler, and it gives that access, or it gives that exit, so that every town can use that, and Plymouth especially included. And so as far as what's done is, the whole middle mile backbone network, which Plymouth would have the ability to use, is really, it's 335 miles to all of those different head ends. It provides redundancy. It provides connections to the outside internet so that you can connect to anywhere, and provides additional dark fiber. And for those who aren't familiar with that, dark fiber, if you think of fiber as a pipe, it's simply a pipe that goes, from town to town, location to location, and that you could, utilize that space, or someone could utilize that space, that pipe, to do whatever it is they need to do to provide different goods and services. So you could have one ISP, internet service provider, supporting Plymouth. You could have many, but this will give the backbone and the opportunity to do that. And the good thing about this one is it's vendor agnostic, it's carrier agnostic, it's ISP agnostic. It's going to be available on a non-discriminatory first come, first serve basis for any of those internet service providers that would want to really want to utilize that to support the town of Plymouth. So what's happening with Plymouth specifically from a high level design is that the designs are complete, the high level designs, and the takeaway from the high level design is it gives you everything with enough detail that you could utilize this high level design and say, I want to go pursue grant funding, I want to pursue bonds, whatever it is, whatever method it is of looking to build this out, or working with an internet service provider to build it out. But it's gives you enough detail to be able to do that. So the high level design is done for all the 39 towns. The last mile design, which is really the final design, is in progress right now. So you might see some of our folks out and about, looking at things and surveying, looking at polls and things like that. And that last mile design, which is in progress, really makes your fiber to the premises, fiber to the business, fiber to the everywhere project, truly shovel ready. This is a construction level document that you can say, hey, I could go build this tomorrow. I could put out an RFP. I could work with an internet service provider. It would save them, the work of designing it. There's so many different ways you can think about this and utilize that. So that last mile final design that's in process is really the ultimate goal, so that all of the administrative burden is taken off of those, all of the towns within the county, to go ahead and figure out what's the best solution for our town to go, to get better internet access to every single home and business. And so that's an important point of that design. When we looked at it, this design is to every single serviceable address within the town. And some of those, as you build out the high level, or you design the high level design for a future build out, sometimes there, that what we call drops, which goes from a municipal network there, or municipally owned network, or somebody else's own network, to those individual homes and addresses. And some of them are short, some of them are long. We all know that there's a lot of underserved within the county. And so that makes some of these a little bit more expensive than others, just given the geographic layout and diversity of Plymouth. But all in all, what it really does is it just gives you that ability. Let me get to the other screen. It gives you that ability to say, hey, this is what, we think it's going to cost. And when that final design is done, it'll get tightened up a little bit. But this should give you a very good idea of where it is. It's a passive optical network that uses 1 in 32 splitters. That means for every fiber, you can service 32 addresses. And the layout is what's called a distributed split architecture. Very common, it's one of the, and it's mostly aerial. It's one of the more, financially feasible ways to build a network with geographic diversity of Plymouth. So in our high level design, we've assumed that 80% of it will be aerial and 20% of it will be underground. It takes into account all of the different electronics and things that it will take to make this, design work, except it doesn't factor into account exactly how an individual ISP would do it, but it's very general. So as you work forward and figure out what is the best path for us, these are things that, any internet service provider can look at, and they'll be able to, sorry about that. And they'll be able to look at that, and they'll be able to say, hey, you know what? I think we can work with this. I think we can figure out how to make something happen here. And so part of our high level design that's done, there was some, assumptions that need to be made. Like I said, 80-20 with an aerial split, or aerial share. But there's also designs about how far poles are apart and things like that. The monetary budget that we have includes, the first year cost to, occupy those poles and all of the permitting and things that will need to happen to get onto those poles. But it's really going to give you the ability, I'll share that in a second. It really gives you the ability to figure out how to move forward without starting from scratch. And we think that's a pretty good place for you to be in. The budgeting is broken down into a few main categories: permitting and licensing. That's all the right-of-way application permits that happen to be on the poles. There are multiple pole owners within the jurisdiction. And so once you have those poles, we've included in our construction breakout the cost it would take for those aerial pole attachments for the make ready. So that's getting those poles ready to add that fiber to those poles. An example of that might be, hey, we have to raise up one cable that's on that pole, 6 inches so we can add this one, or we have to swap out a pole so it can handle an additional cable. But that's included in our construction number, as well as all of the, electronics equipment installation, and all of the construction of that backbone network. And then all of the equipment that it would take to make that network operate, including, you know, splitters and multi-port terminals and things like that, and the different electronics that actually put the light down the fiber. We've included the construction oversight and then the installation of those drops. And those drops are, you know, they vary from not very much to quite a bit, just given that the distance and the diversity that's out there. And then bonds that that would probably be assumed to the project, with the county as the obligee. So all in all, it's about a $10.9 million build, based on a desktop high-level design. Where this will go from here is into that final design stage, and that price will fluctuate, but it'll get to be a lot closer of a price. So it may go up, it may go down, but chances are it's not going to deviate drastically from where it's at, but it gives you a truly shovel-ready project. So I was trying to keep it under a few minutes, so I don't know if you have any questions. We're happy to answer them. I hope I didn't go too.
Questions?
Sure.
Kyle, I can share with you the grant. So Grafton County has their own grant writer that they're basically willing, you guys reach out to them. She's at your discretion and she will help you. She has identified which grants you guys are, that you guys could go out for, and which ones, and then also the matching, there's a matching portion as well. And Nick Coates, had done Bristol and did it very, he had gone out and was very smart with getting the grants and things of that nature. So anything that Caitlin is actually, can you go down one more?
Yeah, you bet. Sorry, I don't know why I can't get to share on presentation mode.
So Caitlin is available she's eager to help you guys. And I can share this with you as well, and I can send this to you so you have this. And then the actual high-level designs, you guys do have that with the copy, with the breakdown and all of that. Those should go, great for a grant if you're applying for a grant or any type of funding. So, any questions?
I got a couple questions. One of which is, well, where's the fiber originating from? Is it going to be coming up from Bristol? Is it go over the D&M building where the fiber terminated some years ago?
So specifically where, so the middle mile, the middle mile piece. Kyle, do you know where that actually?
So there's a connection point to the at Plymouth State University. There's a connection to the internet that's available from there, which is what the entire county's network will.
Right.
Oh,
will
wow.
write.
So you guys are like,
That's why I know that Nick got the drop on us when we're right across the street.
okay, gotcha. Okay, you guys are in perfect position then. Okay.
I also have a question about the fact that, is this like a redundant system of what the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative is trying to do? Because they're putting a deadhead out on, not the fairgrounds, where's, actually I think
Sure.
Bruno's.
So I don't know that I can speak to everything that they're doing, because they're doing a whole bunch of things. But what this would be is, one, if they're putting in something that's similar to provide redundancy. What I understand is that this middle mile network, the first purpose is it's going to connect all the towns and the county asset or county locations, and then I gotta stop that. Sorry. And then that will be able to be a private network that sits behind its own firewall. So you'll have a county network. As far as what it does with what they're doing, the idea here is that this goes to every town, not just the town that meets, their business case, which is, that they're gonna, they're looking out to figure out how they can maximize their, the money they have available. But this one would go to every single town. So I can't really speak to all the things that they're doing and the places that they're going, but I can say this one will go everywhere within the
Nick
county.
and Karina would be a good, would be able to help you
I
out with that.
don't have a good handle on exactly what NHEC is doing.
I think what they're saying, though, is that they're gonna populate every house in Plymouth
Okay,
within 18 months.
okay, wow.
And it seems like they might have the drop on the ownership of the poles, too. but, and we'd be paying them to put your service up on their poles versus them just
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse you. It's not our service. We're not an internet service provider. We just design and build infrastructure. And if this is something that the town needs, then it makes sense. If it's something that, they don't need, it probably doesn't make sense. Or there may be places where NHEC is providing services, but maybe not to every address. So the design we have that we're working on, which is your design, they could utilize to build to everywhere. So we're really a neutral third party on this. I mean, however you choose to use it, we don't have any say in that, nor do we have any preference.
Yeah, it sounds like it's workable probably, that you use the design at least, or find out what the electric cooperative is actually going to go forward with.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry too. The design would probably be very useful for the co-op.
Right.
If they're looking for it, and also just find out specifically what they plan to do over the next 18 months, which they say they can have it to every address.
Wow, that's very aggressive. That's good though.
That's what they said.
Okay. All right. So any other questions?
Is it potential for compatibility with the New Hampshire co-ops?
Kyle, is it, is
I
it
didn't hear the question.
Is it
Say the question
potential, is it potential for compatibility with the New Hampshire Electric Co-op? Meaning, could they?
Well, I think so, and Jake, you can jump in a second if you have a difference of opinion or an additional thought. Compatibility for sure. So fiber is fiber. Think of it as a pipe. Things can go either way through that pipe. If it's an empty pipe, could they use it? Sure. Could someone else use it? Sure. I think it's probably very compatible, but without knowing exactly what they're doing. The compatibility probably would have more to do with the electronics than the physical infrastructure that's installed on the poles and to the premises.
Yeah, so there would be two different levels of compatibility, like Kyle was referencing. One is just in the fiber infrastructure. So certainly anything that we would build, dark fiber infrastructure, or that would get built off of our design, would be compatible with whatever they would use. The design that we're putting in for the fiber to the home is a pond design, and that's what they would most likely use to deliver service to fiber to the homes. But then also the middle mile infrastructure that's being built, if they needed to access that to get service from somewhere or to somewhere via the middle mile backbone that's being built, that should be compatible with anything that they would use also.
Okay.
I had to step out for a minute. Costs associated with this, you said that there's grants available. Are the grants at 100%?
I believe that the most that I've seen have been they've all had some type of a match to them.
Match from the communities or? Match
From the communities, yes. And then there's some other communities that are actually having private finances as well that they're looking at, I guess.
So Grafton County received significant ARPA funds, correct?
Right, yep.
So isn't that money being used as the match?
That actually, and that's something Caitlin's going to be able to help you with, because she's all savvy on that, and she's the grant writer for the county, and she can tell you specifically, give you the specifics on all of the grants and what the match is, and also what they're planning to utilize as a match as well, because she's like the gatekeeper on all of that. I'm sorry, I don't have
So there's no estimate at this time?
Not at this time, no. But Caitlin, go ahead, Kyle.
I was just gonna say that there are so many grants out there right now, and our position is that what we're designing you could utilize as a very robust shovel-ready package to go forward for any grant. I think you could actually, for some of the grants, even use the costs associated with getting these designs done as money that's already been invested and as match money for those different grants. But every grant is different, and our scope in this was to just identify you know, what is it going to cost? What does the infrastructure look like, and those kinds of things. So we support the grant folks, but we are not the grant folks that identify those grants, and you know, we help them go get them on your behalf.
You
It
threw
might-
a guesstimate of a 10.9 million, right?
Yes, that was, yeah.
So it might make sense to just relay out what the strategy was. So Grafton County was building a large middle mile network to cover all of the towns within the county, which would then provide connectivity to each of those county facilities that was in each town. Then from there, the idea would be that the towns could then either through themselves or with a partner come up with a strategy to build out each town individually and to get fiber to the home for their own community. And that's kind of the part that we're trying to lay out right now, is the fiber design for each of those towns and how that could be used in trying to either find a partner or get grants for that town.
Okay.
So I'll connect you with Caitlin, okay? I'll do it so you can check with her. Anything else?
Other questions?
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
If there's
for
any other
coming in.
further questions, and I do, Nick and Karina would be great.
All right, thank you.
Emily.
All right. June Hammond Rowan, quick update on Smith Bridge Roundabout.
Sure. I was just asked to come tonight to talk about a conversation that we being Kathy, Ann, Joseph, and myself, and also staff from Lakes Region Planning Commission. We talked with Bill Watson from New Hampshire Department of Transportation and from their municipal assistance program. And the DOT was aware that they had received several letters apparently from the town and other elected officials regarding the Smith Bridge intersection at Tenny Mountain Highway, and asked, you know, with some ideas of how that could have some improvements done. Currently, the intersection is on the 10-year plan, which just about 2 weeks ago got signed by Governor Sununu. So that is now the new 10-year plan. That process takes about 2 years. Every other year, they adopt a new 10-year plan, which is really a massive capital improvement plan for the state's transportation needs for all the state highways. So basically, Bill from DOT outlined that, you know, that to move a project up, so we just got adopted in there, and we're at the back of the 10-year plan. So 2032-ish, they would start design on, I guess. And to move it up means that some other project has to get bumped or switch places, all right? So that's a difficult step for them. They don't just do that unless there's some good input, is kind of the message I heard at least. So to compromise another project, they would first look for a project within the local community, which we do have Highland Street, which the town has signed the agreement for that, and should be starting some engineering work on that. Or then next, they would look for a project within the Lakes Region Planning Commission area. Jeff Hayes from the LRPC was there, and he was very quick to say they would not support bumping some other LRPC project from, you know, maybe 3, 4, 5 years out just to switch it with Smith Bridge, because then that town or city would be, you know, be going to the back of the line after going through multiple years to get to where they are in the plan. So it wasn't, we weren't really able to find a result that was, you know, a path forward, unless the town wanted to try to switch Highland Street. But the Highland Street project is somewhere around, we thought 1.3, maybe 1.5 million. I don't have the exact numbers, the most updated numbers. Whereas the Smith Bridge intersection's more like 2.5 plus million. So we didn't talk about, it was my understanding that there's potential, if you just did the switch, the town could be responsible for that additional difference in the funding, which wouldn't be good news. And then we did also talk about some alternatives from a federal program that Bill went into some pretty good detail, and I've looked up some more information about the federal highway program of Safe Streets for All. It's a national program, very competitive, and you know, there's a lot of money coming available for this, but there's two parts. One's called action planning grants, which you have to have first before you can do an implementation project. So action planning grants are a minimum of $200,000 to about $1 million grants, but they are really a comprehensive, these are kind of designed, you read it for like Boston, or, bigger communities probably, to really do a complete safety analysis across the entire community. There has to be a strong leadership team component to it. Looks at planning and strategies, a lot of public engagement to gain sort of public priorities for the entire community. There's a big emphasis on equity and how we would address serving all types of communities in Plymouth. So if we went for something like that, then this next round is due September 15th, so there's no way we're going to be ready for that big of a project then. And plus it requires a 20% match, which we don't have. So that's another piece. And then if we once we got in, say we did try to do that and then went through a few years of getting the action grant, then we'd go in for an implementation grant. Again, we're competing against national projects. So for implementation grants, the minimum amount you can apply for is $5 million, which is a lot more than that intersection is being cost estimated for now. And again, we'd have to do 20% match or find another source, non-federal, to have that 20% match. You can't have more than 80% of federal dollars in a project like this. So if you went through those steps of an action planning grant and replied next year and were successful, you got a few years of the planning, then you have to apply for the implementation and a few years of that and design and actual engineering. You're going to be about at 2032 and maybe 2030 if everything went well, and you're paying 20%. So that didn't seem like a very viable alternative. So that's where kind of the meeting ended, and we didn't have any other alternatives really to pursue at this point. So although Kathy did stress to DOT to ask the district to try to look at some of the striping issues there and the passing lane and the middle lane, that type of thing. So I think Bill was going to follow up on trying to do that and get back to Kathy after he's had a chance to talk to the district engineer. And so I don't know if you've heard anything more about it, but yeah, that may take a few weeks.
What's his name again?
Bill Watson.
So is the roundabout the actual solution for Smithbridge? Is that?
Not necessarily. It's, intersection improvements. So what they would do is they would look at different alternatives, and a roundabout should be one of the alternatives. So with the town, and in that process, we can certainly be advocates. The community can certainly be an advocate for, we want a roundabout because of, it works well for all these safety improvement needs. But the traffic engineers will also probably look at a traffic light and other things. I think the only other alternative really to think about is if additional development at some point on Tenny Mountain Highway triggered, something, say something happened down Smithbridge Road, or at the, if the electric co-op got redeveloped to some different type of use, that type of a development, with high traffic flow could require the developer to put in a light, just like Walmart had to at Highland Street and at the Walmart intersection, and other developer, Market Basket had, that development required changes to the intersection and the signalization at Boulder Point, and Highland Street. So that is a different path, but we don't have that development in hand yet. That was probably where it would get moved up quicker.
And where's the Highland Street project sit as far as the 10-year plan? Is it 5 years out, or?
It was set to start about a year ago. Okay. And the town has had some issues with sort of sorting out the cost estimates and subtracting out the work previously done to come up with new estimates. So that took quite a bit of months. And then the town has, Kathy and Ann can speak to this better, but I think you've signed the municipal agreement with DOT, right, to get it going, and then working with a consultant to potentially help administer and take the next steps in the implementation of it. So the next step is to get an engineering firm on board and go through following the proper request for qualifications process. And because it's federal money, you have to do a lot of different things. Then they'll do preliminary engineering, and then environmental review, where they look at alternatives. Then after they pick the preferred alternative, they'll do right-of-way considerations, but they won't do the right-of-way work till they know exactly what the alternative is. So that's a couple of years probably. So I think the construction was maybe more like 2025-ish or so. Yeah.
That
Possibly 26.
involves the realignment of Reservoir Road and Ward Bridge Road with Highland Street.
That's
and
my
then
understanding.
Construction down to Broadway. and-
Yes.
And
Yep.
Ward Hill.
Yep, Broadway to the school intersection, Reservoir Old Ward Bridge there. Just that part that was worked on before, and some sidewalk improvements, that kind of thing.
Are you gonna be able to discuss a couple of other projects that are going around now too, or?
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Are you going to be able to discuss other projects that are currently going on that might be of interest? Like, well, I was thinking you were talking about any other projects on like Town West Road, and there was like a conceptual design of some entry onto Tenny Mountain Highway, and
Town West Road is a private road, so, and we have not, I'm not aware of any projects in there. I mean, I know there's been a discussion of a alternative, sort of years back, kind of a parallel road to Tenny Mountain Highway and back
There's
behind
that,
there,
yeah.
but we don't have that on any plans yet, or, you know, and again, you've got a lot of, we're working on the capital improvement plan, you have a lot of existing roads that need work. To think about a future road is something we can think about, but you're gonna be many, again, 10+ years out, and the cost of acquisition and design and development and construction is a big price. So, not to say, you know, we can't do it, but you also have talked about Railroad Square recently and other areas. So I think it's, you know, the part of the CIP process too should help think about those kinds of priorities of working with what you got, get everything back kind of in big projects done on some major roads in town, fixing drainage, other concerns, and then start thinking, you know, 10, 20 years out about how you might work on some new aspects like that.
okay.
But that I don't think would be a 10-year plan project, 'cause it's not a state highway. It'd be a
Right.
town,
No.
so.
So that's what the TAC, the deal with TAC is the fact that it utilizes monies to work on state roads.
Right.
But I thought they just got a big bucket of money that DOT was actually going to administer, and then either accelerate programs or,
That's not what Bill outlined.
okay,
Yeah, I can't answer to that. They maybe are using some to advance some projects up.
right,
Again, the cost of things is, you know, balancing it with increased costs.
true.
I don't know what their planning and budgeting is on all their projects. That's a massive undertaking.
Right.
So, all right, any other questions?
All right, thank you. Joseph Perez. It's a CIP update.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, as we've, discussed here before, that staff and CIP committee, we've inventoried almost 200 capital items and projects. The goal is still to create a plan. It's not a budget, but it's going to be to give decision makers, yourself, the budget committee, a complete picture of capital needs and a potential plan moving forward. Just last week, the committee's really started moving forward to the next phase of, a recommended program of capital improvements, looking at what's going to provide a stable tax rate and, general improvements to the capital stock. But one thing that the committee is looking at in those stabilization and prioritization decisions is, the issue of roads. So that's sort of what we wanted to bring to the board. And I know Zach had a lot of, has been very involved in this, but wasn't able to be here tonight. But as the committee starts to look towards prioritization and stabilization, it's come out that really the committee's consensus was to prioritize sort of getting the roads back on track as sort of a key underlying goal for the next 6 years of capital improvements. So that's not to say other stuff is not in the plan. It's all going to be in the plan. That's the the major purpose. But in making those decisions, the committee felt it was important to sort of put a priority on those big capital road rebuild projects that discussion of some types of equipment have been prioritized at other points, and maybe now with these recommendations, the committee would suggest a switch more to a capital road project focus. In some cases, these are bigger projects that are, where some smaller pieces of infrastructure, different types of infrastructure, you may be able to do optimizations to the operations side. You may be able to do other, more temporary fixes that you might, for example, on a small piece of equipment, a few $1,000s might go a long way to optimizing it for a little bit versus, a road that's not going to get you a road rebuild even, to any certain extent. So I guess the general summary is that we wanted to go to the select board as the, some of the key players who will hopefully be, receiving the recommendation to see if that's a general orientation that would be, supported by this board of having a key feature of the plan being a road rebuild, getting road rebuilds, road infrastructure on a capital perspective, sort of back on track over the next 6 years.
Didn't LRPC come up with their road analysis that was like $400K a year or something like that?
Yep, so the road surface management study is definitely, we've certainly taken a look at that, and, Joe's very aware of that. That's more on an operations and maintenance side. What the capital improvements plan will look at is more capital road projects. So, at a certain point, once a road is no longer, in a phase where those sort of maintenance plan recommendations can keep it good, it'll sort of switch to a capital project. And those are the roads that we focus on here. It's sort of a complement to that. It's not instead of or superseding that. It's just, that can be on the operations and maintenance side, a good recommendation to follow. And then this would be, looking at the capital side over the next 6 years, recommended among all the other, capital projects and considerations.
Well, it's kind of exciting.
I thought that plan that was put forward covered all of the roads that were falling into disrepair. So I'm not really sure what your recommendation is really covering that hasn't already been covered in that plan.
So yeah, the road, did you want to?
No, go ahead.
I was saying, yeah, the road surface management really sticks to the surface, the pavement. It doesn't go to, digging a road up to the sub-base, redoing the drainage, redoing the sidewalks, redoing the curbing. We have a lot of roads where by the time if we have closed drainage that's failed, the sub-base has failed, it really does switch to even, more intensive surface management compared to a complete rebuild of the road with the associated drainage and sidewalks.
Okay, so do you have that ready for anybody to look at today, what your recommendations are?
So the committee is going to be meeting in the near future with department heads to sort of continue finalizing, but before putting together a final recommendation, they were kind of hoping to see if that, if that orientation was something the select board would, be supportive of as the ones who would be, sort of receiving and implementing the plan. Though if anybody wants to, it's all public, anybody is welcome to come look at it. I'd be happy to send it. But at this point, it's not a finished recommendation.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, the recommendations include estimated costs? Okay, great.
To the best, it may not be, an engineered cost estimate for everything at this point, but we feel we've got pretty good numbers for this first 6-year chunk that we're going to be recommending. So it does, everything's got a cost associated with it.
Very good.
What the CIP is looking for is the board to say, after looking at all the equipment, we believe that the roads this coming year or a couple years down the road are really going to take precedence over the equipment for the most part. It may move, by doing a road, it may move a heavier piece of equipment down a year or two. But we want your commitment that when we present this plan to you, do you agree that the roads are of high priority?
I would say roads are a high priority, but I'd have to see the specifics of the plan and what it's going to defer from equipment to see if it makes sense.
And that makes sense. I think, it wouldn't necessarily as well be, cutting something for a road. It might be creative financing, different financing options, optimizations to operations for a couple of years, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's definitely.
For me, I mean, if I see a solid plan in front of me, I'm not going to argue with it.
But all those things would need to be taken into consideration when we're looking at the plan, will it get to that level?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd want to see how it was going to align up with the road surface management plan, where those things were recommended, to make sure that we're not digging up something that we didn't that we just refinished.
So I was just quickly looking at some of the estimates that I've been working on, and based on other costs and other road projects that we've had some estimates for. But what we're really talking about, like, for example, Pleasant Street is in rough shape. And we've heard from the police department that their regular patrols on weekends during the academic year, they're driving that road a lot, and it's beating up the car. So if you just repave it, it's not solving the problem because the drainage has failed underneath, and it won't solve the sidewalk issues.
That's what I was getting to. I don't want to
But-
repave it and then dig it up because.
Exactly, but the cost estimates that we had was about $395,000 for that road, to rebuild it properly and replace the drainage and sidewalks, okay? So the point is, how do you get that money without, if you can take $5,000 or $10,000 to other equipment and make repairs and to make it last another few years, then you can keep that as a priority. If you try to give $5,000 or $10,000 to one of these major projects, you're just going to do a little bit, maybe just put a shim coat on it or fix them at best. So that's where, as looking at it, it's just hard to take these large hundreds of thousands of dollars of projects and only do a little tiny bit and get anything worthwhile. So that's why the committee kind of, at about 8:15 the other night, was like, we got to there's no other way to really get that kind of money without making an agreement that that's really the priorities, and then work on moving some of the other stuff around to have more of a creative plan to, I think, address what you're saying. Okay? Is that, just having those numbers maybe helps you to understand what we're talking about in terms of.
I know it's expensive.
Isn't Pleasant Street in the tearing up of the streets and doing the, South Main Street renovations, the project?
I don't think so.
No.
Not even a little bit of,
That's at the beginning of it, I believe, and Joe's on, if you want to ask Joe.
yeah, I saw Joe on there. Joe, you're on mute, by the way.
You're muted.
So what's the question?
I thought the lower part of like Pleasant was in the project for,
South Main Street.
yeah, South Main Street, yeah.
So Russell Street's gonna get tore up, but the issue is, the bottom of Pleasant Street, the water comes down that hill at such a rate that we're going to, turn the corner and go up Pleasant Street just short of like, Winter Street, just to catch the water on that corner. And then when we get ready to, do Pleasant Street, we'll be able to tie Pleasant Street into the bottom of Russell Street without tearing it up twice. So yeah, it's going up just a little bit. It's turning the corner enough to put two basins in on the corner.
Okay.
I have a question regarding Warren Street from the intersection of Russell Street up to Thurlow Street, that section on the hill. Is that going to be included in the project?
No, just from Main Street, coming up Warren, connecting to Russell. I do have some bids out to pave the intersection of Warren, Texas, and that intersection, so.
Yeah.
That section the bottom of the hill on Warren Street is terrible,
Yep,
but there's no plan for that at this time?
not at the moment. You know, we're trying to put the priority money where it needs to go, and, so where it comes up from Main Street, up Warren and ties to Russell, that's all engineered, so the rest of that hasn't had a drainage study done. So I've been asking and pushing for it for a while, but I haven't been able to go in that direction.
Thanks, Joe.
So I don't know if there are any other questions or comments that you want the CIP committee to consider, but that it is getting close with the CIP. I think the committee is excited, feeling like it's going to be a last little push here to get a really good first crack at the CIP, and I think I think it'll be ready in the pretty near future for a solid recommendation of capital program.
I'd just like to tell you that from what I can see, most of the traffic from Parker Street and Chatterin Lane and Thurlow Hill and all those residences up there all comes down Warren Street. And that street has been pounded to pieces. And I'm asking you to put a priority on studying it.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. Thanks, Joe.
I have Jim Kahn now is,
Okay, well, I was thinking about going back to Joe, but,
oh,
yep.
we're gonna table that indefinitely.
And Joe's on, so.
Joe, can you speak to the white excavating culverts for Bartlett?
Sure. Those are, the culverts are all in on Bartlett, and so we had put that out to bid as a separate bid for the culverts. It's in that project, but they were just bidded out separately, and so they're all in, and so that's the price of them, and we're making great progress. They've got all the culverts in, and the road's probably halfway excavated, so it's moving along at a faster rate than was expected.
So the culverts were wrapped up in the bid, right? For,
Yes, yes, they are. I mean, they were bidded separate. Everything had a breakdown, and that
Okay.
breakdown for the culverts is in that bid, but yes.
okay, so it's not on top of the white contract, it's
No,
within it? It's within it.
It's within it.
Okay. Any questions, or? Well,
Joe, I don't think that they need to do another purchase order if it was part of the white contract.
Right, I'm not sure how it made it there, but.
Okay, all right.
all right. Well, thanks for the update.
You're welcome.
Excuse me. Jeez. So Jim Kahn.
So Jim has called in, he's the phone number. Jim, can you
Okay.
hear us?
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes. And Jim, you're going to provide a hauling discussion? I guess
Yep.
continuation from last week or last meeting? I'm losing my voice.
Yep.
And we have the Casella proposal in front of us.
So you should have both proposals.
Yep.
I do. I've
One is from Waste Management that you received.
Somebody sounds worse than me.
That's Joe. That's Joe. The MSW contract, 365 up to 444. It's a 5-year contract. That's for MSW transportation per haul. And that's the third page in. Again, this is Waste Management that we're looking at.
Okay.
And then Casella's per haul, starting right out of the gate, is 475. And then you need to rent,
but you need to rent the container
you need
at
to rent,
$300 a month.
right,
So it's more expensive,
it is.
a lot.
Yeah.
And you did try, Jim, for one other,
Yeah, Witcher never got back to me.
he never responded to the request.
Who do we work with now?
It took
Waste management.
Okay.
waste management.
Oh,
Waste management.
If you look at the next 5 years, his doesn't even get up to the 475 waste management, and there's no rental fees on any of the dumpsters.
True.
Yeah, it seems like a done deal to me.
I know. How come such the differential, though? That's pretty big.
Yeah, and I don't know, unless waste management, well, it doesn't say anything about rental in their contract, so I don't know if they figure that price in. But even their glass hauling's cheaper than anything they have throughout the 5 years. Doesn't even match Casella's, or it's better than Casella's. And Casella will go up like no more than, I think, 5% in a year.
Yeah, no less than 5%, yep.
No less than five, yeah. So I think I would, if it was me, I would stay with waste management.
Do we need a motion for that? All right, well, I'll make a motion that we continue on with waste management due to better pricing.
All right, so moved. Is it, and it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Jim. Is there anything else, or?
No, just drive safe, Jim.
Yeah, and I'm not driving, I'm on the side of, actually, I'm in the Applebee's parking lot in Vermont, so.
Well, enjoy your supper there.
I just want to get home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't blame you. All right, well, thanks, Jim. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'll see everybody tomorrow.
Thank
Have a
you.
good oak.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, so we are down to committee reports.
Marion?
I wasn't there for it.
So, any board?
I have a Perlac report.
We're getting there. Actually, oh yeah, we're on the list. How'd that happen? It's got Bill and Ted
What's that?
on Perlac.
Should be who, Bill and Neil?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm not.
Uh-oh. Somebody's still on.
What do you,
All right, so Plymouth Village Water and Sewer, there was no meeting, or?
I didn't attend vacation.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Planning Board, Neil?
well, they met on July 21st. I think I gave that report at the last meeting.
Oh, okay. Can I mention quickly, so Riverside's doing at least tree removal right now. Thank you, June, for, because I'm sure
I should
people
have
are
mentioned
interested.
that one. Everybody's been asking about it.
Yeah.
Yes, we were notified by the owner there that they were going to proceed with just the tree removal. I've reminded the owner probably a dozen times. He knows it. Any earthwork, anything else, there's a bunch of number of conditions he has to do for erosion control, things like that. We need to get some funds for construction inspection. He's very aware of it and been very cooperative, so.
Okay.
It's just the tree removal, which he has the right to do. He does have a DOT access permit for logging, so that DOT is aware of that too.
Okay.
Well, they had a curb cut there in the highway.
Right.
Aren't they almost on the cusp of getting their last permit?
They have their alteration of terrain permit and their wetlands permit. So I believe it's, and their site plan review conditional approval expires in December, and Mike McGinley's very aware of that. We have been regularly in touch with him, talked to him recently. So he will probably, he depending on what happens this fall, he wanted to open it up, is my understanding, to have it more visible in there for marketing purposes. And from then, if depending on it's been a volatile year for construction in terms of costs, so it's been a little bit of a delay, unexpected, especially with the rising cost of fuel. So he may end up needing an extension for another year or two, we'll see. But he's been good to work with. He's got all his permits. Those have an expiration on the date on them. I don't have those in front of me, but he does have everything ready to go, with the exception of getting the construction inspection for the town's planning board requirement in place, which is important. Keep an eye on it. So, and we have an escrow agreement that it's got it drafted. He just needs to sign and give us a few $1,000s for that purpose. So he knows that, so it's all good.
Before you sit down, so Ann mentioned that the sign in front of the area behind the furniture place is there was a sign on the property there, clear cut, and said the next phase of Riverside Landing is coming soon. Is there anything going on over there that?
I haven't actually seen that sign to think of it. I'll have to go home that way or something. That phase of what I guess could be considered Riverside Landing, I don't know if it's really been named that. We have had a few discussions of some conceptual ideas for that site with the owner, some fairly recently, but there's no application yet. It's all been very just idea-oriented and going over what's allowed in zoning requirements, that kind of thing, and the site plan review. But again, it's the same parties involved, and
Right.
they know us, and we've had some good communications lately,
Okay,
updates, so.
interesting. That's good. Okey-doke. Campus Community Council, we mentioned there's a meeting coming down the pike.
Yeah, that meeting isn't formally Campus Community Council. It's more of a Plymouth State hosting a discussion with the Plymouth community. As per our discussions last year about Campus Community Council, the way it was formulated wasn't working 100%. So it was decided that we would do this kind of introduction to what they have going on this year in lieu of a Campus Community Council meeting.
Uh-huh.
Will that be live streamed?
No. They're hosting
Right.
their infrastructure.
Can we bring a camera in?
You could bring a camera on.
All right. Plymouth School District?
I'm not
Zach?
aware of any meetings that have happened during the summer.
How come? Probably for good reason.
Probably.
Conservation Commission. Neil.
Boy, the last meeting we had was on July 19th. I think I reported on that already.
Okay. Capital Improvement, we had an update from Joseph, and Zach's not here. LRPC, Zach and Bill, nothing that I'm aware of that we've had going on for the past couple of weeks since the annual meeting. Parks and Rec.
There was a meeting on Wednesday of last week up at the McGlone residence. Discussion items were on the budget. They spent $648,000 and they had $296,000 of revenue. So their bottom line was $352,000 and change. And apparently they returned $141,000 and change. There was discussion on their initiative to be able to take payments and register online. They were pretty excited about how well that was going. It's already apparently paid for itself. Discussion about summer programs. They were also celebrating Kelsey's return after her being elsewhere and coming back to the job here. There was also some discussion on looking at different ways they could serve the public. Right now, they recognize that they are very focused on K-6, and so they're looking at options to expand that out. expand that out to include maybe 6 through 8 or above, and possibly also include adult programs.
Okay.
Something about Halloween being held on Halloween.
Are you kidding me?
Because it makes the most sense to hold it on the day that it actually is. And the ski and skate sale is on the docket for November 18th and 19th.
Okay. That's it. So, parking committee.
The meeting.
Perlac.
Yeah, we had a really big meeting on July 26th. One of the major topics was the Pemmy River Campground at exit 29. They're applying for a major expansion in a floodplain, and there's some dispute about a shoreline permit that they've been working on, and their application was determined by Thornton to be incomplete. They had no hazard mitigation plan, and there are some other issues, and there are also abutters that are concerned. They got some new members, James Cheesebro from Thornton, and Lincoln has a couple of new members. And Lincoln announced that they are under water restrictions.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of concern about Owl's Nest and the amount of water they're taking out of the river, and the size of the expansion of their residential development. And they also want to get Owl's Nest is working on getting a shoreline permit for a trout pond, which is very close to the river, and there's a lot of concern about how that could cause some disruption of the river. So that's another topic that we discussed. They found an endangered cobblestone tiger beetle at the site where they want to have the trout pond.
Right.
Horizons Engineering is doing their engineering. Lisa Donor said that she will do water quality testing at the PSU lab for cost and materials. Then we moved on to the issue of power company mowing methods along the rivers, and the state land resource management agency is being consulted about that, and let's see, we also discussed the LRPC management plan update, which is January 31st of 23 deadline. And that, I guess that just about does it.
Okay. Thanks, Neil.
Does that make sense to you, Bill?
It does, and as being the acting secretary, I think you've just made a great report. Maybe you can share your notes.
You want me to photocopy it for you?
Just take a picture of it.
There's a lot
and send
more
it
there that I skipped
type
over.
it.
I got to run through the whole show anyway, I guess, but yeah, I got to get the minutes prepared for next meeting.
Okay.
Economic Development Committee. It's
No
okay.
such.
Energy Commission, Bill. So I've been away, so I don't think there was a meeting that I missed, but you know, we did you know, site review on a couple of sites. I know Grace and company have been in touch with the contractor that they're choosing, and when we have another meeting, I'll be sure to provide an update to the committee, the board rather.
I have a question. If this national legislation goes through that just passed the Senate on Sunday, would that improve our chances of getting grants?
We might have to put it up, maybe by next year. I mean, within the next year, I'm sure we'll see what's available to, state level and for what purpose. And it's probably likely that we might be able to get something out of it, especially when more and more states are going to be turning down the money because they don't believe in climate change. Maybe it'll be more money for those that do, so. Excuse me. Anyway.
You don't think New Hampshire will be one of those states, do you?
God, I hope not. I really don't think so. Advisory Budget Committee.
They'll be coming in to meet with the board on 8/22.
Uh-huh.
They're on the agenda, I am told.
That's our next meeting.
Neat. And Town Infrastructure. Water and Sewer.
I'm not on water and sewer.
I think we could try to get everybody on
They're
that.
trying to stick me with it.
Well,
I was
we'll
on
try someone
water
else
and
next.
sewer. I really raised hell. Excuse me.
I kind of got a kick out of it. I shouldn't have say that too loudly, but it was kind of interesting because if you can make the meetings, which sometimes aren't really advertised that well,
Right.
it's kind of nice, seeing what they're up to, what they're doing and having a chance to chat with them. But
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting
They
that I
don't
be
have
placed.
very many people,
No.
All 5.
Excuse me. All right. So we have a town manager update.
Okay,
Excuse me.
thank you. So my contract as town manager will expire January 14th, 2023. The contract was a 3-year contract and it's not being renewed, so I'm looking at retirement at the end of the year. I've worked for 5 town administrators, every one of which has had different strengths and management styles. I've also worked for many, many different select boards during this time. I've enjoyed my 25 years working for the town of Plymouth, and I'll miss the staff, department heads, and citizens of Plymouth. I'd like to say thank you to all of them for the support they've given me over my time here, and I wish for the continuation of many good things for this town. I know that even with the budget constraints, I've done my best to try to make Plymouth a better place, and hopefully I was able to make a difference in some small way. And on that note, I would like to give a short update of how we anticipate ending our fiscal year. What we're showing to date is approximately $1.9 million left in the budget before the deduction of the encumbrances and carryovers equal to an estimated $1.5 million and a few other items. This leaves us with about $300,000 to return to the unassigned fund balance, which the board can use as an offset to the tax rate this fall should they choose to do so. Hopefully the audit will support at least these numbers. For those members of the public that don't know the process, the Department of Revenue Administration requires us to have an unassigned fund balance of between 5% and 17% retainage, or about $900,000 to $3.3 million in the fund balance account. An unassigned fund balance should be maintained to accommodate any unforeseen expenses that may occur for any reason throughout the fiscal year. 3 years ago, we were down to $72,000 in our unassigned fund balance account. We've gradually been able to rebuild the fund to be more in compliance with the Department of Revenue. And right now, we have about $600,000 retained. Add the $300,000 that we're hoping to have at the end of this audit to that amount, and we're almost back to the beginning of the range the DRA wants us to be at. So looking ahead at the projected MS1 assessed valuation of the town, comparing the difference from 2021 to 2022 to date, we've gained almost $3 million worth of valuation in the town. The MS1's a state form submitted to the Department of Revenue by September 1st of each year. It shows the assessed valuation of the town and is used as part of the process in determining the tax rate. While the town of Plymouth works to make sure the municipal portion of the tax rate remains low, the budgets of the state, county, and school are also big determining factors in where the tax rate might wind up. Once the audit is complete, we're hoping to set the 2022 tax rate sometime in October, and we are working hard to find ways to keep the rate down while we continue to maintain services to the town. We thank you for your continued patience and support as we work to achieve this goal. And that's all she wrote.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy.
Excellent report.
Thank you.
And you'll have so much free time on your hands. I know you did offer to drive for Transport Central, and I
I
appreciate
did.
that very much,
Yep.
so.
Except in the winter, yeah.
Just-
She's a fair weather driver.
Just indicate that when gas gets below $3 a gallon too, then.
There you go.
Anyway, thanks very much, Kathy. So that brings us to the next item, which is the town manager job description and advertisement discussion. And I hadn't had a real good chance to take a look at it, and I would appreciate some more time to review it and then, be able to comment on this when Zach gets back as well. And there's also some documentation that I received from Scott. And I didn't have a chance to forward it to anybody. There is some interesting excerpts which I pulled out of, like, one of the things he sent was the recruitment guidelines from, whatever the IC, the International City County Management Association. And there was very interesting discussion about, like, who might be brought in to actually, from the community, to be part of the decision-making process and to help the board in working with the different agencies in the town, to include, like, the hospital, the university, just like upstanding people in the town as well that would be very interested in participating in the interview process. So I think I'd like to be able to discuss that as well. And I know we have kind of like a time constraint that we want to get the announcement out for advertisement fairly quickly, and also discuss the job description itself. So I'm hoping maybe to have, perhaps like a working discussion next week, maybe, before our next,
Depends. How close do we have to sit with you?
I'll be well by then, I'm sure.
Are you positive?
Yeah, I shouldn't say I'm positive, yeah.
Right.
Pretty certain.
Yeah, that's better. So would that be okay with the board, just to have a chance to review it, maybe at a work session next week?
Yeah, just so you know, Zach and I met with Ian to go over what's here.
Okay. All right. Well, we can include Ann too, it's no big deal,
You're proposing another meeting next Monday?
if that's possible. Is that,
Can we do like a 4 o'clock on Monday, maybe?
Before I say yes.
Zach should be back, right? I think.
I have to check my next week.
If it's just a work session, it doesn't have to be a Monday night. It could be any night.
I can probably do 4:15.
4:15? I can't make that one, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, then
4:15 would be good.
August 14th?
I think it's the 15th,
15th?
Monday the 15th.
Okay, 15.
And what I'll do,
4 PM?
4:15.
you could be here at 4.
I might be here as early as 4, I just can't guarantee it.
Yeah, I have to
We'll
try to
post
get
it for
15 minutes
4:15
ahead.
and then you'll
'Cause I
be
live
here.
way out in the wild West Plymouth.
And I'll also forward that, the material that Scott shared too. It was a few weeks ago, actually, but I'll send that out. All right.
So are you looking to put this on the agenda again for the 22nd as well?
Oh, I
or
think,
at your work session, are you going to be ready to, we'll probably, if you make changes, I'll need some time to do that, or somebody will. So you want it on the agenda again of the 22nd?
yeah, I suppose, yeah.
All right.
Just at least an update for sure.
Yep. Okay. Any public comments on tonight's agenda, Frank? No public comments? Okay. Thank you. Glad you come. So therefore, we need to go into a non-public session.
All right.
Is there
Make
a
a
motion?
motion, we go into non-public in accordance with RSA 91-A:3, personnel.
Oh, you missed the Roman numeral 2. But,
Roman numeral 2, personnel.
all right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded. Ted, your vote?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
Bill? Aye. We're in non-public.